And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Friday morning's flying weather graphic shows a lot of IFR here scattered across the interior and some VFR in the central part of the state here. Marginal VFR for the eastern and far southwestern Bering Sea. And areas of IFR here for the North Gulf Coast and the Panhandle. And for the afternoon, not much change here. A band of IFR there right along the coast range here, down over the northern and eastern part of the southeast coast, and areas of IFR across the southern interior. More extensive IFR for the Yukon Flats up to the Brooks Range, on out to the Arctic coast. Mostly marginal here for the northern and eastern Bering Sea, and some VFR here for the area from about Nikolsky to Atka, maybe up to the Pribilofs. And Saturday morning, good band of IFR from the north slope to the Arctic coast and down into the Yukon Flats and southward here into the central interior, all the way down to the western Alaska Range there and portions of the Kuskokwim Valley. And the North Gulf Coast, still looking at some IFR. No change for the Panhandle. And for Saturday afternoon, IFR here north of the Brooks Range, out to the eastern Arctic coast, and then south of the mountains there, down across the Yukon River to about Eagle, and areas of IFR for the Tanana Valley zone, improving here to the west and to the south with VFR for Cook Inlet down into Bristol Bay. And again, no change for the southeast coast. For Anaktuvik, look for IFR. Same thing for Adigan, both passes there through the Brooks Range, expecting IFR in the forecast. IFR in the forecast also for Lake Clark and Merrill, as well as Rainy, Windy, and Isabel. But Mentasta should be a little bit better. Marginal VFR there with possible VFR on the northern side. Tanita IFR becoming marginal. Portage IFR, especially on the eastern entrance. And Chilcoot White IFR. Freezing levels, 2,000 feet here over the southeast coast, otherwise 4,000 feet down over the Queen Charlottes. Nothing out to the west here. The cold air pushing 2,000 feet down off the chart. At the surface here, south of the Pribilofs, but still well north of the Aleutian chain. And for icing, considerable moderate here below 15,000 feet. Or along and south of the mid and lower Yukon River Valley areas into the northern Kuskokwim Valley, and then up toward the White Mountains there with isolated moderate turbulence here for southern Alaska down across the southeast coast. And the jet stream, broad trough low pressure here at 33,000 feet as a jet well to the south, 140 knots there, blowing into British Columbia. Out here to the west, northwest flow, about 65 to 70 knots there with the core jet off the map there to the south. And for 9,000 feet, low pressure here right over Cook Inlet, higher pressure out to the west. North to northwest winds, 40 to 50 knots across the central Bering Sea down into the Aleutians here and the Alaska Peninsula. And then swinging around back from the west-southwest, keeping it wet over the Panhandle and the North Gulf Coast, 40 to 55 knots. And at 3,000 feet, southwest 35 knots there over the southeast coast, west-southwest 45 knots over the northern Gulf of Alaska, north to south flow here right along the west coast from 40 to as high as 50 knots there blowing across the Alaska Peninsula. And turbulence-wise, with that northerly winds here, look for some considerable moderate mechanical turbulence, Point Hope, Cape Lisburne, the Seward Peninsula and Bering Strait, as well as the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta down into Bristol Bay, including the Alaska Peninsula westward toward the eastern Aleutians.